When people were most curious about Gatsby, something strange happened. One Saturday night, the lights in his house didn't turn on. Slowly, I realized that his role as a party host, like Trimalchio, was finished. I noticed that cars stopped by his driveway only for a short time, then left quietly. I wondered if he was sick, so I went to check. A new butler, who looked unfriendly, looked at me with suspicion from the door. "Is Mr. Gatsby sick?" "Nope." After a pause, he added, "Sir," in a dilatory, grudging way. I hadn't seen him around, and I was rather worried. "Tell him Mr. Caraway came over." "Who?" he demanded rudely. "Caraway, Caraway, Caraway." My Finn told me that Gatsby had fired all the servants in his house a week ago and hired about 6 new ones. These new servants never went into West Egg Village to accept gifts from the shopkeepers. Instead, they ordered enough supplies by phone. The grocery boy said the kitchen looked very messy, like a pigsty. People in the village thought the new servants were not really servants at all. Next day, Gatsby called me on the phone. "Going away?" I inquired. "No, old sport. I hear you fired all your servants. I wanted somebody who wouldn't gossip. Daisy comes over quite often, in the afternoons. 92, so the whole caravansary had fallen in like a card house at the disapproval in her eyes. There's some people Wolfsheim wanted to do something for. They're all brothers and sisters. They used to run a small hotel. Because Daisy had asked him to, she invited me to lunch at her house the next day. Miss Baker would be there too. Half an hour later, Daisy called herself and seemed happy that I was coming. Something was going on, but I couldn't believe they would choose this time for a big argument, especially one like the garden scene Gatsby had described. The next day was very hot, almost the hottest day of the summer. When my train came out of the tunnel into the sunlight, only the loud whistles from the National Biscuit Company broke the quiet afternoon. The straw seats in the train were almost too hot to sit on. The woman next to me started sweating, and then, as her newspaper got wet, she sighed in the heat. Her purse fell to the floor. "Oh my," she said. I picked it up carefully and gave it back, holding it far away so she would know I didn't want to take it. But everyone around us, including the woman, still looked at me with suspicion. The conductor said to some people, "Hot, hot, hot. Is it hot enough for you?" My ticket came back with a dark stain on it from the conductor's hand. In this heat, who cares whose lips you kissed or whose head was resting on your chest? Inside the Buchanan house, a light breeze moved through the hall. We could hear the telephone ringing while Gatsby and I waited at the door. "The master's body," shouted the butler into the phone. "Sorry, madam, but it's too hot to touch right now." What he really said was, "Yes, yes. The lady expects you in the salon," he said, showing us the way. In this heat, every movement feels like a waste of energy. The room was cool and dark because of the awnings. Daisy and Jordan lay on a huge couch, looking like silver statues in their white dresses as the fans blew. "We can't move," they said together. Jordan's white powdered fingers rested briefly in mine. "Where is Mr. Fines? Where is Mr. Thomas Buchanan, the athlete?" I asked. At the same time, I heard Tom's rough, tired voice on the phone in the hall. Gatsby stood in the middle of the red carpet, looking around with interested eyes. Daisy laughed at him with her sweet, exciting laugh. A small cloud of powder rose from her chest into the air. The voice on the phone grew angry. "Fine, then I won't sell you the car at all. I don't owe you anything." "And I won't stand your complaints at lunch," Daisy said. "He's holding down the receiver." "No, he isn't," I told her. "This is a real problem." "I know about it." Tom suddenly opened the door and blocked the way with his large body. He hurried into the room. "Gatsby," he said, shaking hands, but clearly not liking it. "Good to see you." "Nick, make us a cold drink," Daisy called. As Tom left, Daisy got up and kissed Gatsby on the mouth. You know I love you, she whispered. Remember, there's a lady here, Jordan said. Daisy looked around, then said, You kiss Nick too. What a rude, vulgar girl. I don't care, Daisy shouted, then started dancing on the brick floor. Then she remembered the heat and sat down quietly on the couch just as a nurse came in with a little girl. Blessed precious, the nurse said softly, holding out her arms. Come to your mother who loves you. The child ran to her mother and shyly held her dress. Blessed precious. Did mother get powder on your yellow hair? Stand up and say hello. Gatsby and I each took the small, shy hand. Gatsby kept looking at the child in surprise. I don't think he really believed she was real before. I got dressed before lunch, the child said happily to Daisy. That's because your mother wanted to show you off, Daisy said, smiling at the child's neck. You dream, you little dream. Yes, the child said calmly. Aunt Jordan is wearing a white dress too. How do you like mother's friends? Daisy turned the child to face Gatsby. Do you think they're pretty? Where is Daddy? The child asked. She doesn't look like her father, Daisy said. She looks like me. She has my hair and face shape. Daisy sat back on the couch. The nurse stepped forward and held out her hand. Come, Pammy. Goodbye, sweetheart. The well-behaved child looked back once, then took the nurse's hand and was pulled out the door. Just then, Tom returned, carrying 4 gin rickeys full of ice. Gatsby took his drink. They look very cool, he said, looking tense. We drank quickly and eagerly. I read that the sun is getting hotter every year, Tom said kindly. Tom said to Gatsby, I want you to see the place. We went out to the veranda. On the hot green sound, a small sailboat slowly moved toward the cooler sea. Gatsby watched it for a moment, then pointed across the bay and the dry weeds along the shore. Slowly, the white sails moved against the blue sky. Ahead was the ocean and the beautiful islands. That's fun, said Tom, nodding. I wish I could be out there with him for an hour. We had lunch in the dining room, darkened to keep out the heat, and drank cold ale to ease our nerves. What will we do this afternoon? Daisy asked. And tomorrow? And for the next 30 years? Don't be sad, Jordan said. Everything is so confusing. Let's all go to town. Her voice struggled through the heat, trying to make sense of the confusion. I heard about turning a stable into a garage, Tom said to Gatsby. But I'm the first man to turn a garage into a stable. Who wants to go to town? Daisy asked again. Gatsby looked at her. Ah, she said, you look so cool. Their eyes met, and they stared at each other quietly. Daisy looked down at the table. You always look so cool, she said again. She had told Gatsby she loved him, and Tom saw it. He was shocked. His mouth opened a little as he looked between Gatsby and Daisy, like he just remembered her from long ago. I'm ready to go to town. Let's go. We're all going. He stood up, still watching Gatsby and Daisy. No one moved. Come on, his anger showed. What's wrong? Daisy's voice made us stand and walk out to the hot gravel driveway. Are we just going? She asked. Like this? She begged. Have it your way, she said. Come on, Jordan. They went upstairs to get ready while the 3 men waited, moving the hot stones with their feet. The silver moon was already in the western sky. Gatsby started to speak but stopped. Tom turned and looked at him. Do you have your stables here? Gatsby asked carefully. I don't see the point of going to town, Tom said angrily. Women get these ideas. Shall we take something to drink? Daisy called from upstairs. I'll get some whiskey, Tom answered and went inside. Shh, I said. And this cane, it's full of... I stopped. Her voice is full of money, he said suddenly. I had never understood before. Her voice was full of money. That was the endless charm in it, the sparkle, the sound like cymbals ringing. High up in a white palace, the king's daughter, the golden girl, Tom came out of the house holding a quart bottle wrapped in a towel. Daisy and Jordan followed, wearing small, tight hats made of shiny cloth and carrying light capes. "Shall we all go in my car?" Gatsby asked. He touched the hot green leather seat. "I should have parked it in the shade." "Is it a manual car?" Tom asked. "I don't think there is much gas," he said. "There's plenty," Tom said loudly. He looked at the gas gauge. "And if it runs out, I can stop at a drugstore." "You can buy anything at a drugstore nowadays." Daisy frowned at Tom, and Gatsby's face showed an expression that I had never seen before. It was hard to describe, but I felt I had only read about it in books. "Come on, Daisy," Tom said, pushing her toward Gatsby's car. "I'll take you in this circus wagon." He opened the door, but Daisy moved away from his arm. "You take Nick and Jordan. We'll follow you in the coupe." She walked close to Gatsby and touched his coat. Jordan, Tom, and I got into the front seat of Gatsby's car. Tom carefully changed the unfamiliar gears, and we drove off into the hot heat, leaving Daisy and Gatsby behind. "Did you see that?" Tom asked. "See what?" He looked at me closely, knowing Jordan and I must have known everything already. "You think I'm dumb, don't you?" he said. "Maybe I am, but sometimes I have a kind of second sight that tells me what to do. Maybe you don't believe that, but science—" He stopped, suddenly remembering something important. "I've done a little investigation on this man," he said. "I could have done more if I had known more." "Do you mean you went to a medium?" Jordan asked, joking. "A medium? About Gatsby?" "No, I haven't," Jordan said kindly. "Oxford? No way. He wears a pink suit. Still, he's an Oxford man." "Oxford, New Mexico," Tom said, mocking. "Tom, if you are such a snob, why did you invite him to lunch?" Jordan asked angrily. "Daisy invited him. She knew him before we were married, God knows where. We were all a bit nervous from the beer running out, and drove quietly for a while. Then, when Dr. T. Eckelberg's faded eyes appeared down the road, I remembered Gatsby's worry about the gas. "We have enough gas to get to town," said Tom. "But there's a garage right here," Jordan said. "I don't want to stop in this hot weather." Tom impatiently stopped the car under Wilson's sign. After a moment, the owner came out and looked at the car with tired eyes. "Let's get some gas," Tom said roughly. "You sounded fine on the phone." Wilson slowly left the shade and opened the gas tank. In the sunlight, his face looked green. "Why?" "Sorry to interrupt your lunch," he said, "but I need money badly, and I was wondering what you would do with your old car." "How do you like this one?" Tom asked. "I bought it last week." "It's a nice yellow car," Wilson said, pulling hard at the handle. "Want to buy it?" "Maybe," Wilson smiled weakly. "But I could make some money on the other one. Why do you suddenly want money? I've been here too long." "I want to leave. My wife and I want to go west." "Your wife wants to go," Tom said, surprised. "She's been talking about it for 10 years. He rested against the gas pump, shading his eyes from the sun. "Now she's going whether she wants to or not," kicking up dust and with a hand waving from inside. "What do I owe you?" Tom asked gruffly. "I just found out something strange in the last 2 days," Wilson said. "That's why I want to leave." And for a moment I realized that Wilson hadn't yet suspected Tom. He had found out that Myrtle had a secret life in another world, and the shock made him feel sick. I looked at him, then at Tom, who had found out a similar truth less than an hour ago. It made me think that the difference between healthy and sick people was greater than any difference in intelligence or race. Wilson looked so sick that he seemed guilty, as if he had just made some poor girl pregnant. "I'll let you have the car," Tom said. "I'll send it tomorrow afternoon." That place was always a little scary, even in bright daylight. And suddenly I turned my head as if I felt something behind me. Above the ash heaps, the big eyes of Dr. T. Eckelberg watched us, but I soon noticed other eyes watching from less than 20 feet away. In a window above the garage, the curtains moved slightly, and Myrtle Wilson was watching the car. She was so focused that she didn't notice we were watching her. Different emotions appeared on her face, like pictures slowly forming. Her expression was strangely familiar, like many women's faces I had seen before. But on Myrtle's face it didn't make sense until I saw that her eyes, wide with jealous fear, were not on Tom, but on Jordan Baker, who she thought was Tom's wife. There is no confusion like that of a simple mind, and as we drove away, Tom felt panic. His wife and his mistress, once safe and sure, were now quickly slipping out of his control. He instinctively pressed the gas pedal harder to catch up with Daisy and leave Wilson behind. We drove at 50 miles an hour toward Astoria until we saw the easy-going blue coupe near the tall metal bridges. "Those big movie theaters around 50th Street are great," Jordan said. "I love New York on summer afternoons when everyone is away. It feels very sensuous, like all kinds of strange fruits might fall into your hands." The word sensuous made Tom more nervous. But before he could say anything, the coupe stopped and Daisy waved for us to come closer. "Where are we going?" she asked. "How about the movies?" "It's so hot," she said. "You go. We'll drive around and meet you later." She smiled weakly. "We'll meet you on some corner. I'll be the man smoking 2 cigarettes." "We can't argue here," Tom said quickly, as a truck blew a whistle behind us. "Follow me to the south side of Central Park." In front of the plaza, several times he looked back for their car. If traffic slowed them down, he slowed too, afraid they might disappear forever. But they didn't disappear. And we all decided to rent a living room in a suite at the Plaza Hotel. I don't remember the long, noisy argument that ended with us in that room, but I remember feeling very uncomfortable. My underwear kept climbing up my legs like a wet snake, and sweat ran cool across my back. The idea started with Daisy saying we should rent 5 bathrooms and take cold baths, or pretended to think we were very funny. The room was big and very hot. Although it was already 4 o'clock, opening the windows only let in a hot breeze from the park. Daisy went to the mirror and stood with her back to us, fixing her hair. "That's a nice suite," Jordan whispered with respect, and everyone laughed. "Open another window," Daisy said without turning around. "There aren't any more windows." "Well, we should call for an axe then. The best thing is to forget the heat," said Tom impatiently. "Complaining only makes it worse." He took the bottle of whiskey out of the towel and put it on the table. "Why don't you leave her alone, old sport?" Gatsby said. The telephone book fell from its nail and hit the floor with a splash. Jordan whispered. "I'll get it," I said. "I've got it," Gatsby said. He looked at the broken string, said, interested, and threw the book on a chair. "That's a funny phrase of yours, isn't it?" Tom asked sharply. "What phrase?" "All this old sport stuff. If you're going to say personal things, I won't stay here a minute." Suddenly, the heavy heat was filled with the loud music of Mendelssohn's Wedding March from the ballroom downstairs. "I got married in the middle of June," Daisy remembered. "In Louisville in June." Someone fainted. "Who fainted, Tom?" "Biloxi," he answered shortly. "A man named Biloxi." Jordan added, "because we lived 2 doors from the church. He stayed 3 weeks until Daddy told him to leave." "There wasn't any connection. I used to know a Bill Biloxi from Memphis," I said. "That was his cousin. I knew his whole family history before he left." Then a long cheer came from the window. "We're getting old," Daisy said. If we were young, we would get up and dance. Remember Biloxi? Jordan warned her. Where did you know him, Tom? Biloxi? Tom tried to remember. I didn't know him, and as Shul, he was a friend of Daisy's. He wasn't, Jordan said. I had never seen him before. He came in a private car. Well, he said he knew you. He said he grew up in Louisville. He was probably hitchhiking home. And Tom suddenly looked at him. By the way, Mr. Gatsby, I hear you went to Oxford. Not exactly. Oh, yes. Then Tom spoke. Surprised and rude, you must have gone there around the time Biloxi went to New Haven. Another pause. A waiter knocked and entered with crushed mint and ice, but no one spoke. The silence stayed. I told you I went there, said Gatsby. I heard you, but when? It was in 1919. I stayed only 5 months. That's why I don't really call myself an Oxford man. Tom looked around to see if we believed him, but we were all watching Gatsby. It was a chance given to some officers after the war, Gatsby explained. I felt a strong trust in him again. Daisy smiled a little and went to the table. Open the whiskey, Tom, she said. I'll make you a mint julep. Then you won't feel so silly. Look at the mint. Wait a minute, Tom said sharply. I want to ask Mr. Gatsby one more question. Go ahead, Gatsby answered politely. What kind of trouble are you trying to cause in my house? Finally, everything was clear, and Gatsby looked calm. He isn't causing trouble, Daisy said, worried, looking from one to the other. You are? Please calm down. Calm down, Tom repeated angrily. I suppose now the latest thing is to sit back and let some nobody make love to your wife. If that's the idea, count me out. People today start by disrespecting family life, and soon they'll mix races in marriage. He imagined himself as the last defender of civilization. We're all white here, Jordan said quietly. I know I'm not popular. I don't throw big parties. Maybe you have to make your house messy to have friends today. Even though I was angry, and so were the others, I wanted to laugh every time he spoke. He changed so quickly from a wild man to a strict moralist. I have something to tell you, old sport, Gatsby started. But Daisy guessed and stopped him. Please don't, she said helplessly. Let's all go home. Why don't we all go home? That's a good idea. I stood up. Come on, Tom. Nobody wants a drink. I want to hear what Mr. Gatsby has to say. Your wife doesn't love you, Gatsby said. She never loved you. She loves me. You must be crazy, Tom said quickly. Gatsby stood up, full of excitement. She never loved you, do you hear? She only married you because I was poor and she was tired of waiting for me. It was a terrible mistake, but in her heart she only loved me. At that moment, Jordan and I tried to leave, but Tom and Gatsby both strongly said we should stay, as if they had nothing to hide and wanted us to watch their feelings. Sit down, Daisy, Tom said, trying but failing to sound fatherly. What's been happening? I want to hear everything. I told you, Gatsby said. You've been seeing this man for 5 years. Not seeing, Gatsby said. No, we couldn't meet. No, we couldn't meet. But we both loved each other all that time, old sport, and you didn't know. That's all. Tom tapped his fingers like a preacher and leaned back. You're crazy, he shouted. I can't talk about 5 years ago because I didn't know Daisy then. And I don't believe you got near her unless you brought groceries. But the rest is all lies. Daisy loved me when she married me and loves me now. No, Gatsby shook his head. She does sometimes get silly ideas and doesn't know what she's doing, Gatsby said wisely. And I love Daisy too. Sometimes I go wild and make mistakes, but I always come back, and I love her with all my heart. You're disgusting, Daisy said. Her voice got lower and full of anger as she looked at me. Do you know why we left Chicago? I'm surprised they didn't tell you about that little wild time. Gatsby stood next to her. Daisy, it's all over now, he said seriously. It doesn't matter anymore. Just tell him the truth that you never loved him, and everything will be gone. She looked at him confused. Her eyes looked at Jordan and me like she was asking for help, as if she suddenly understood what she was doing, and like she never planned to do anything, but it was too late. I never loved him, she said slowly, not really sure. Not at Kapiolani? Tom asked suddenly. No. From the ballroom below, quiet music came up with the hot air. Caring. Daisy, please don't. Her voice was cold but not angry. She looked at Gatsby. There, Jay, she said, but her hand was shaking while lighting a cigarette. Suddenly, she threw the cigarette and the burning match on the floor. Oh, you want too much, she cried to Gatsby. I love you now. Isn't that enough? You loved me too? He asked. That's a lie, Tom said angrily. She didn't even know you were alive. There are things between Daisy and me that you'll never know, things we'll never forget. Gatsby felt like those words hurt him. I want to talk to Daisy alone, he said. That wouldn't be true. Of course it wouldn't, Tom said. She looked at her husband. As if it matters to you, she said. Of course it matters. You won't take care of her anymore. I won't? Tom opened his eyes wide and laughed. He was calm now. Why not? Daisy's leaving you. Nonsense. I am, she said, trying hard. She's not leaving me, Tom said, leaning toward Gatsby. Not for a common thief who had to steal the ring he put on her. Shouted. Oh, please let's leave. Who are you anyway? Tom asked suddenly. I know you're one of those people who hang out with Meyer Wolfsheim, Gatsby said calmly. I found out what your drugstores really were. Tom turned to us and spoke quickly. He and Wolfsheim bought many small drugstores here and in Chicago and secretly sold grain alcohol. That's one of their tricks. I thought he was a bootlegger the first time I saw him. Your friend Walter Chase wasn't too proud to join, was he? And you left him alone, didn't you? You let him go to jail for a month in New Jersey. God, Walter has a lot to say about you. He came to us broke. Gatsby didn't answer. Walter could report you for breaking betting laws, but Wolfsheim scared him into silence. Gatsby's face showed a strange but familiar look again. That drugstore business was small, but now you have something bigger that Walter is afraid to tell me. I looked at Daisy, who was scared, staring between Gatsby and Tom, and at Jordan, who was balancing something invisible on her chin. Then I looked back at Gatsby and was surprised by his face. He looked like someone who had killed a man. For a moment his face showed deep pain. Then it passed. He began talking quickly to Daisy, denying everything, trying to defend himself against accusations that had not even been said. But with every word, Daisy pulled back more and more inside herself. So Gatsby stopped trying, and only the dead dream stayed on, fighting to reach what was no longer real, sadly trying to hear a lost voice across the room. The voice begged again, Please, Tom. I can't take this anymore. Her scared eyes showed that any courage or plans she had were gone. You two go home, Daisy, Tom said, in Mr. Gatsby's car. She looked at Tom, afraid now, but he ordered with proud anger, Go on. He won't bother you. I think he knows his little game is over. They left without a word, suddenly, like ghosts, far away even from our pity. After a moment, Tom stood and began wrapping the unopened bottle of whiskey in a towel. Anyone want some? Jordan? Nick? I didn't answer. Nick? He asked again. What? Want some? No, I just remembered. It's my birthday. I was 30. facing a new decade full of unknowns. At 7 o'clock, we left for Long Island. Tom talked non-stop, proud and loud, but his voice faded into the background noise. Jordan and I were glad to let their bitter fight vanish with the city lights behind us. 30 promised loneliness, fewer single men, less excitement, and thinning hair. But Jordan, wiser than Daisy, rested her pale face on my shoulder. We drove on into the cool evening toward the unknown. Michaelis, a young Greek who ran the coffee shop near the Ashes, was the main witness in the investigation. He had slept until after 5, then found George Wilson very sick in his office, pale and shaking. Michaelis told him to rest, but Wilson refused, worried about losing business. Suddenly, loud noise came from upstairs. Wilson said calmly, "I locked my wife up there. She'll stay until the day after tomorrow. Then we'll move." Michaelis was surprised. Wilson was usually tired and quiet, watching people without much speech. He belonged to his wife, not himself. Wilson didn't explain what happened but looked suspiciously at Michaelis and asked about his whereabouts on certain days. Michaelis felt uneasy and left to return later, but forgot. After 7, he heard Mrs. Wilson shouting angrily in the garage, "Beat me. Throw me down and beat me, you coward." She ran into the dark, waving and shouting. Before Michaelis could act, it was over. The death car didn't stop. It appeared from darkness, wavered, then disappeared around a corner. Michaelis wasn't sure of its color, but told police it was light green. Another car stopped 100 yards away, its driver rushing back to where Myrtle Wilson lay dead, her blood mixing with dust. Her shirt was torn, left breast exposed, mouth open as if gasping for breath. We arrived to find many cars and a crowd. Tom said, "A wreck. Wilson, we'll have work now." He slowed, but didn't stop until serious faces made him brake. We heard loud cries of, "Oh my God," from the garage. From the garage. Tom pushed through the crowd. Myrtle's body lay covered on a work table. Tom stood still. A policeman wrote notes nearby. Wilson swayed in his office, holding the door frame, crying, "Oh my God," over and over. Tom asked the policeman what happened. The officer said a car hit Myrtle and killed her instantly. Michaelis said 2 cars were involved, one coming, one going. The New York car hit her at 30 or 40 miles per hour. A man said a big yellow car speeding caused the accident. Wilson heard this and cried louder, saying he knew the car's kind. Tom held Wilson firmly, telling him to calm down. Wilson tried to stand but nearly fell. Tom supported him. Tom shook Wilson gently. "I just arrived from New York a minute ago. I was bringing you the coupe we talked about. The yellow car I drove today isn't mine. I haven't seen it all day. Only the black man and I heard." "This?" The policeman looked suspicious. "What's that about?" he asked. Tom said, "I'm his friend. He says he knows the car that caused the accident, a yellow car." The officer asked, "What color is your car?" Tom answered, "Blue coupe." I added, "We came straight from New York." Confirmed by someone behind us. The policeman turned away. Tom lifted Wilson like a doll, sat him in a chair, and told 2 men to watch him. Past a doctor who had arrived earlier, and Tom drove slowly until out of sight, then fast. I heard him quietly sob, calling the driver a coward for not stopping. We reached the Buchanan's house. Tom stopped near the porch, saw light in 2 upstairs windows. "Daisy's home," he said. "He said he should have left me in West Egg since nothing could be done tonight. He arranged a taxi for me and said I could wait inside or have supper. I refused. I felt sick and wanted to be alone. Jordan invited me, but I said no, and she left. I sat quietly until I heard the taxi call, then walked to the gate. Suddenly, Gatsby appeared from the bushes, wearing a bright pink suit in the moonlight. I asked what he was doing. He said he was just standing there. I felt suspicious, wondering if he was up to something. He asked if I saw the accident and if the woman died. I said yes. He said Daisy handled the shock well and told me he took a side road home, leaving his car in the garage. I disliked him and didn't correct his wrong ideas. He asked who the woman was. I said Wilson, whose husband owned the garage. Gatsby tried to explain the accident, saying he tried to turn the wheel. When I asked if Daisy was driving, he admitted yes, but said he would say it was him. He explained Daisy was nervous and wanted to calm down by driving, but the woman ran out suddenly. Daisy first looked away, then panicked and turned back. Gatsby said when he reached the wheel, he felt the crash that killed her immediately. It tore her open, Gatsby said. Tom winced and replied, "Don't tell me, old sport." Anyway, Daisy stepped on the pedal. I tried to stop her, but she couldn't. I pulled the emergency brake. Then she fell into my lap and I kept driving. Gatsby said, "She'll be fine tomorrow. I'm waiting here to see if Wilson bothers her about the accident today." Daisy locked herself in her room. If Wilson acts violently, she'll turn the light off and on to signal me. He won't touch her. He's not thinking about her, Gatsby answered. I don't trust him, old sport. I asked. How long will you wait? He said. All night if I have to. Until everyone sleeps. I thought maybe Tom would find out Daisy was driving and connected to the accident. I looked at the house. Some windows downstairs were bright, and Daisy's room on the second floor glowed pink. I told Gatsby to wait, and I would check if there was trouble. I walked quietly around the lawn and up the porch steps. The drawing room was empty. Near the kitchen window, I saw Daisy and Tom sitting at the table with cold fried chicken and 2 bottles of ale. Tom talked seriously, holding Daisy's hand. She sometimes nodded. They didn't seem happy, but not unhappy either. They looked close, like they were sharing a secret. I heard my taxi arrive. Gatsby asked if it was quiet. I said yes and told him to go home and sleep. He shook his head and said he wanted to wait until Daisy went to bed. Then he turned back to watch the house, as if my being there spoiled his vigil. So I left him alone in the moonlight, watching nothing.